I knew it, he murmured. There's something there that shouldn't be. A werewolf? Harry suggested. That wasn't a werewolf, and it wasn't no unicorn either, Hagrid said grimly. Right. Follow me. Be careful now. They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved. Who's there? Hagrid called. Show yourself. I'm armed. And into the clearing came. Was it a man? A horse? To the waist, a man with red hair and a beard, but below that, a horse's gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione's jaws dropped. Oh, it's you, Ronan, said Hagrid in relief. How are you? He walked forward and shook the centaur's hand. Good evening to you, Hagrid, said Ronan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice. Where are you going to shoot me? Can't be too careful, Ronan, said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. There's something bad loose in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way, students up at the school. And this is Ronan, you two. He's a centaur. We notice, said Hermione faintly. Good evening, said Ronan. Students, are you? And do you learn much up at school? A bit, said Hermione timidly. A bit. Well, that's something, Ronan sighed. He flung back his head and stared at the sky. Mars is bright tonight. Yeah, said Hagrid, glancing up too. Listen, I'm glad we run into you, Ronan, because there's a unicorn that's been hurt. You see anything? Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upwards, then sighed again. Always the innocent are the first victims, he said. So it has been for ages past, so it is now. Yeah, said Hagrid, but have you seen anything, Ronan? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight, Ronan repeated, while Hagrid watched him impatiently. Unusually bright. Yeah, but I was meaning anything useful, like a bit closer to home. So you haven't noticed anything strange? Yet Ronan took a while to answer. At last, he said, the forest hides many secrets. A movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second centaur, a black-haired and bodied, wilder looking than Ronan. Hello, Bane, said Hagrid. All right? Good evening, Hagrid. I hope you are well. Well enough. Look, I just been asking Ronan, you see anything odd in here lately? Only there's been a unicorn that's been injured. Would you know anything about that? Bane walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skywards. Mars is bright tonight, he said simply. We've heard, said Hagrid grumpily. Well, if either of you do see anything, let me know. We'll be off then. Harry and Hermione followed him out of the clearing, staring over their shoulders at Ronan and Bane until the trees blocked their view. Never, said Hagrid irritably, tried to get a straight answer out of a centaur. Ready stargazers. Nobody's interested in anything closer than the moon. Are there many of them in here? Asked Hermione. Oh, a fair few. Keeps to themselves, mostly. But they're good enough about turning up, if I ever want a word. They're deep-minded creatures. They know things. They just don't let on much. Do you think that a centaur that we heard earlier? Did that sound like hooves to you? No. If you ask me, that was what's been killing the unicorns. Never heard anything like that before. They walked through dense, dark trees. Harry kept looking over nervously his shoulder. He had the nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad that Hagrid and his crossbow were with them. They had just passed a bend in the path when Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arms. Hagrid, look, red sparks. The others are in trouble. You two wait here, Hagrid shouted. Stay on the path and I'll come back for you. They heard him crashing the way through the undergrowth and stood looking at each other, very scared until they couldn't hear anything but the rustling of leaves around them. You don't think they've been hurt, do you? Whispered Hermione. I don't care if Malfoy has, but if something happened to Neville, it's our fault he's here. The minutes dragged by. Their ears seemed sharper than normal. Harry's seemed to be picking up every sigh of the wind, every cracking twig. What was going on? Where were the others? At last, a great crunching noise announced Hagrid's return. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was fuming. Malfoy, it seemed, had sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him for a joke. Neville had panicked and sent up some sparks. We'll be lucky to catch anything now, with the racket you two are making. Right, well, we're changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Harry, you go with Fang and this idiot. I'm sorry, Hagrid added in a whisper to Harry, but he'll have a harder time frightening you, and we've got to get this done. Harry set off in the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked nearly half an hour deeper and deeper into the forest, until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes of roots of a tree, as though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. He could see a clearing ahead through the tangled branches of an oak tree. Look, he murmured, holding his arm out to stop Malfoy. Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was the unicorn, all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out at odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread pearly white on dark leaves. Harry had taken one step towards it when a slithering sound made him freeze where he stood. A bush on the edge of the clearing quivered. Then, out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like a stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. The cloaked figure reached the unicorn. It lowered its head over the wound at the animal's side and began to drink the blood. Ah! Malfoy let a terrible scream and bolted, and so did Fang. The hooded figure raised its head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dribbling down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly towards him. He couldn't move for fear. And then a pain pierced his head like he had never felt before. It was as though his scar was on fire. Half blinded, he staggered backwards. He heard hooves behind him galloping, and then something jumped clean over him, charging the figure. The pain in Harry's head was so bad that he fell to his knees. It took a minute or two to pass. When he looked up, the figure had gone. A centaur was standing over him, not Ronan or Bane. This one looked younger. He had white blonde hair and a palomino body. Are you all right? Said the centaur, pulling Harry to his feet. Yes, thank you. What was that? And we will stop there and continue.